Alright, welcome back. Now, Charles Xavier, when he comes back, because while he was gone, Magneto was in charge of the X-Men. I know, strange, right? He came across two new mutants that, that were recruited during his time away, Gambit and Jubilee. During this time, he and his X-Men go and fight the evils that is known as the Shadow King. Remember him? Well, unfortunately for Charles Xavier, the Shadow King broke his spine, and Charles Xavier was once again rendered a crippled man in a wheelchair. Though, however, shortly after that, Charles Xavier is infected with a techno-organic virus that was created by Apocalypse, and he once again gained the ability to walk. Now, during an issue in which Magneto and his acolytes, I got them wrong last time, I apologize, they're not apostles, they're acolytes. Magneto ripped the adamantium out of Wolverine's body, and Charles Xavier became very upset with this and shut Magneto's brain down. However, this did not end well for Charles Xavier, because by doing so, he had accidentally absorbed the evil thoughts of his good friend Magnus. And, you know, Charles Xavier's evil thoughts and Magnus's evil thoughts fused together into the almost unstoppable being known as Onslaught. Onslaught will get his own night class, because he is probably one of the most badass villains I've ever come across. Yeah, so essentially he is what would happen if you crossed Magneto and Charles Xavier together. So after all the American superheroes band together and, you know, fought as hard as they could and actually defeated him, Charles Xavier was actually arrested, because Charles Xavier admitted that he accidentally created this. But once again, it didn't stick. He was appealed, and he was put into the custody of Bastion, who is the leader of the anti-mutant operations, or the Zero Tolerance group. After that, Charles Xavier, for a little bit, was actually the leader of the was freed by led the Brotherhood once he would to get free. He also left the Brotherhood and the X-Men to go train a bunch of mutant Skrulls to use their powers. Now, when Moira Tiger's lab is blown up by Mystique, Charles Xavier is there trying to help her deal with the fact that she was going to die and to get the legacy virus. He wanted to stay with her until the very last moment, but if he would have done so, he would have died, and the cure for the legacy virus would never have been found. So Charles Xavier's talked to leave by Jean Grey, and they go, and Moira dies. Then stupid shit happens. Turns out that Charles has an evil twin sister, Cassandra Nova Xavier. She exposes him as being a mutant. Yeah, and then let's see. Lorna goes in. The Empress of the Shi'ar Empire goes insane and tries to kill Charles. And then, yeah. And they annul their marriage. She annuls the marriage. The only good thing that really came out of this, actually, was the fact that, excuse me, the X-Men for a brief time became public, and they were no longer the X-Men. They were the X-Corp, a corporation dedicated to helping mutants. Mutants helping mutants. And then Kane came because he had nowhere else to go, and the two brothers, came to an understanding, blah, blah, blah. And then Zoran attacked! And Zoran turned out to be Magneto, but it's not Magneto, it's someone else pretending to be Magneto, pretending to be Zoran, who's actually a real person. Crazy. But, yeah, so after that, Scarlet Witch goes insane and kills her husband and several of the Avengers. And Magneto brings her to the care of Charles Xavier. And Charles Xavier does everything he can, but is having problems reaching her. And then all of a sudden, the House of M happens. And it turns out that, you know, Magneto had talked his crazy daughter into recreating the world in, you know, his image, blah, 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 blah. Well, after House of M, Charles Xavier's, you know, legs were restored. And, you know, he was like, oh man, I can walk. Unfortunately, he was one of the 91.4% of mutants that lost their mutant powers. So he can no longer detect new mutants because he can no longer use Cerebro. Then it was revealed that this is complete crap and kind of sucky. But it's also kind of good storytelling, interesting story as well.